All right, what's up, kinfolk? Today is Thursday, October 2nd, and this is day 4 with us talking about South Africa. So, today we are delving into South Africa as the Rainbow Nation and all of the diversity that the country is filled with from all of the different migrants and different cultural groups that are present in South Africa. So, for joining us for tonight's Connect and Sit session. Tomorrow is the last day that I will be covering South Africa. So make sure if you have any questions, you definitely drop them, send them to me so that I can answer them for you tomorrow or this weekend before we move on to a brand new country. So we have talked about so many things this week, and I really wanted to make sure that in addition to talking about just the different vibes and culture and environment that you get from the different provinces, and specifically with Pretoria, Durban, Johannesburg, and Cape Town, but also like where that comes from. And some of that is definitely going to come from the different cultural mixes that you will find throughout the country. All right. So let's start off with why it is called the Rainbow Nation. And I want to show you guys the South African flag and talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see the flag as we talk about it. All right, so I have a couple of pictures here for you guys to see. One is horizontal and one is vertical, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So basically, thank you. The flag that you are able to see here represents the unity of a multicultural society, right? So if I'm going to the government, South Africa's government site, and actually let me share this with you guys. I'm going to pull this out so I can read it from their website, but I want to show you guys this one here for right now. Have you look at the horizontal shape. So it says South Africa, called by some the Rainbow Nation, and it is a title that captures its diversity. We already talked about the fact that they have 11 official languages. We talked about the fact that there are 3 capital cities, right? And just earlier this week, as in 2 days ago, we ended their official Heritage Month, because since 1944, September has been their official Heritage Month. And that is when the histories and cultural practices are celebrated, and then there is recognition that is given to the men and women who have contributed to the heritage and culture of the nation, right? It says the freedom of culture, religious, and linguistic expression is enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And we talked a little bit about that, some of the protections that people have in regards to like their diversity and their beliefs. It says South Africa is a country where creative expression flourishes and its cultural diversity are embodied in its art and culture. So that is a little bit, that is from southafricahistory.org, but going back to South Africa's governmental site, it says that the national flag was designed by a former South African state herald and was first used on April 27th, 1994. That was by Mr. Fred Brownell. And the design and colors are a synopsis of principal elements of the country's flag history. Individual colors or color combinations represent different meanings for different people. So if you go online and you look it up, you will see that people have taken flags from other countries and said, oh, this is where the red comes from. Oh, this is where the green comes from. Oh, this is where the black and yellow or whatever comes from. And so you will see some of those, let's say, I guess we can say maybe analysis. Like, I don't really want to call them like theories, but they're people's like opinions specifically, because the government itself says that there's like no universal symbol. Like, it wasn't trying to say it's from this or from that. It is literally just a combination of colors, which are supposed to represent the different cultures and the differences and like the languages and all of those types of things. And so it also says that the V form, and I always look at this and I look at it as a Y, right? But they said the V form, and I will flip to this so that you can see that a little better. It looks like I've always thought of it as like a Y, but it says the V form is flowing into a single horizontal band. And basically it is showing like the unity. So it's saying that the convergence of two different elements that come together, right? And so going forward, pressing forward is supposed to be the unity of us all coming together. And their motto is unity and strength, right? And that was from the South African coat of arms. Something else that I learned was that when you do hang the flag vertically, you are to hang it with the red stripe to the left. And then we have the thin white stripes. The green is in the middle, followed by another white stripe and the blue towards the right. At the top, we have the black V, followed by a thin yellow or gold V. And that comprises all of the different colors of the flag. So when we're talking about diversity, when we are talking about all of these different cultures that are coming together, that are mixing together, it really is like prevalent throughout the country, even starting with their flag and their constitution. Now, we know that there have been some issues, some racial issues, some cultural issues, some xenophobic issues. And that begins to present a challenge because it almost seems like the goal is, and I guess that's kind of like America too, like the goal is that we are all united. Like the goal in America is that there's freedom and there's liberty for all, which is complete and utter BS. However, that is the promotion, that is part of the brand, that is part of the marketing that the US has put out for the world. Like everybody here, we're doing great and there's freedom and there's liberty and there's peace. Yeah. Okay. So it feels like that's something that the country is working towards. And of course, no country is perfect, but even them having that as, you know, in their constitution and being instrumental in representing their country, I feel like that is an exceptionally good thing. And hopefully they can one day get there. All right. So that is the flag for you. I think the flag is like super dope. It's really beautiful. All right. So now moving on to, let's talk about sort of the cultures. What I think the most well-known tribe is the Zulu Nation, right? So when we talk about I'm going to close this for a second. When we talk about like the tribes, when we talk about like the photos and things that are seen, like the Zulu Nation is a very, like, they're the most populous in number of the tribes. They are the largest tribe by far in South Africa. And it's kind of similar to how we talked about the Maasai tribe in Kenya, how like that's just kind of what the world knows the country for, right? However, there are so many different tribes, obviously, as we know from like the 11 official languages, not 11 languages spoken, 11 official languages for that country, where the US doesn't even have one, right? So the Zulus are the largest ethnic group, and they are primarily concentrated in the KwaZulu-Natal area, which is where Durban is. So we talked about Durban, we talked about the warm ocean because it's right on the Indian Ocean. Durban is right there. And we talked about how you can get like some of the safari adventures kind of there, how they have like lots of nature and exploration over there, how it's like calmer than some of the other bigger cities. And in that area, isiZulu is the most widely spoken home language. But there are also so many other groups as well. Hausa is huge, right? And Hausas, they have the clicking language. So I believe, and I don't know how to click properly. So when you hear people say it, it'll be like Hausa, like Hausa. there's a click that you do when you say the word. There's actually a click in the word. So Hausa isn't the correct pronunciation of it. But people are like, Hausa is a big tribe. They are spread throughout different parts of Africa as well. They're not only concentrated in South Africa. And so we know that Mandela is Hausa. We know that Trevor Noah, who is a popular celebrity, is Hausa. So even in the celebrity section on connectmetoafrica.com, you'll be able to like see some of the famous people from South Africa. There's also the Soto-Swana people. There's the Koshin people. We have the colored communities. So we know that Tyla caught a lot of slack for like saying that she's colored and not black, or not admitting that she was black. But it's like, of course she's black. However, in South Africa and in other places of the world, we have to remember that everyone doesn't have the same language as us, and everyone doesn't have the same history and culture as us. So when we are saying, oh, she's black, she's not saying she's black. In her country, they don't even use that terminology, right? So she's colored because she is mixed. And that goes into like having, we talked about a lot of Indians being like in Durban, and having a lot of Asians as well. And so just the mixture of all of that. And then I was talking to y'all about people from all the other African countries. Like, I was so shocked and just like amazed. And I think it's because spending time in West Africa, I feel like when I'm in Nigeria, it'd be mostly Nigerians that I see, right? Not saying that it's all Nigerians. And of course, we know that Ghanaians live there also. But I think part of it is because they're also surrounded by a lot of French-speaking Francophone countries. So people that are going to Nigeria, it's not like, oh, you know, they're going to go from people who are in a neighboring country are just going to go to Nigeria. Ghana has and Nigeria have two countries between them, Togo and Benin, right? But it's only like an hour flight. So if I was to go to Togo and now they're speaking French, or I was to go to Benin and they're speaking French, and all these countries are speaking French, well, Ghana and Nigeria are the only Anglophone ones, like right up in that area. And Cameroon is primarily Francophone, but then some places they also speak English as well, because they were like colonized, like the country was separated and they had two different colonizers at once or something like that. But at the end of the day, you have Ghanaians in Ghana and you have Nigerians in Nigeria, and then you'll see a little bit of sprinkle. But for the most part, I wasn't seeing like Kenyans in, you know, West Africa. I wasn't seeing, I'm not saying that they're not there. I'm just saying when I was in those countries, I was primarily seeing people from those countries, right? But in South Africa, it was like, oh my goodness, there's people coming from all over the place. And I really loved having that exposure and that experience because, like I said, I was able to meet people from different places that I had never been before. So with the migrations, they say that immigrants or migrants make up about 4% of the population, which is pretty small. But the majority of people are from Zimbabwe. So let's look at South Africa's map. So if we are here, and we can just look in the Southern African area specifically, right? So South Africa is down here in pink. We already talked about how Lesotho is completely surrounded by South Africa. Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, is over here in the northeast area. Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe are directly north of South Africa, right? Mozambique is east. So the primary number of people that have migrated to South Africa, the people who were not born in South Africa but that live there now, only represent about 4% of the population, with most of them being from Zimbabwe, the largest number being from Zimbabwe, which makes sense because Zim is literally right here, right? But we see that Zambia is right above Zim. We have Angola to the west of that, and DRC and Congo are not too far. It's starting to get a little bit further, but it's not too far going into Central Africa, right? And we also have Malawi right here mixed in with Mozambique. So when we are looking at this and we hear things like, oh, there's a large population from Zimbabwe. Okay, well, that makes sense. There's a large population from Mozambique. People from Mozambique, Mozambicans are the second largest group of migrants. Okay, that makes sense. They literally share a border, right? And then Lesotho, well, yeah, Lesotho is a smaller country. It definitely has less people, but it has the third largest group of migrants, which makes sense because Lesotho is right there. And then we also have Malawi, which is not too far away, and the UK. Now, I'm not sure the racial or ethnic background of the people from the UK. Just knowing that when people are applying for residency and citizenship, work visas, student visas, and all of that, they are applying from the UK, right? So that's also very interesting because that's a whole nother continent. So they also have large communities. And I don't want to say like large, but they do have communities of people from Zambia, which we see is not too far, from DRC, from Ethiopia, from Nigeria, Somalia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and more, right? So again, we're talking about Europe, different countries in Africa, as well as different countries in Asia, right? So again, going into the diversity of that. And then of course you have like the Afrikaans who are there as well, in addition to the natives who have multiple different ethnic groups. So there is a lot of diversity that comes from that, meaning that extends where? Well, we're going to see that when we go to, there's like I showed you guys Victoria Street Market, right? They have lots of markets, and we have entrepreneurs, people from Zim and Mozambique. They have a lot of shops and stalls where you can buy food, you can buy spices, you can buy fashion. You know, we already saw some of like the fashion, the prints and things that you can buy when you go to the market. So again, all of that cultural influence. I heard so much music from Congo, right? So even if you go to connectmetoafrica.com, we know that we have a couple of Spotify playlists. I can add some more Spotify playlists. They have so many artists. So Amapiano is now really big, right? Amapiano was not like global just a couple years ago. But if you go here, there are a couple of Spotify playlists that you can see. Just like check out what is the music like and where are the artists from. There are some artists from South Africa. We also have like this is the album that one of the albums for the University of Pretoria, their choir, which is really nice. And this is going to give you a greater sense of like the traditional music versus like the pop music, right? Or the music that you're going to hear at the nightclubs. So just checking that out, again, will give you a sense of like, well, what is the difference between the vibes in South Africa versus Nigeria versus Kenya? Like all of this is to help you understand like the differences between the countries and really just get to see like which country are you vibing with? Where are you connecting? Where do you see yourself like visiting and spending time? So Afro beats is taking over the world. So of course they're playing Afro beats, but they also have so much Congolese music, like I already said. And depending on where you are in the country, you will be able to hear different fusions of music because of all of the different drums and all the inspiration from the different cultures that are residing there. And then depending on if you're going to like an Eritrean restaurant, the music that they play is going to be different than if you go to a restaurant that's run by like people from Zimbabwe or something like that. And so just having Zimbabwean DJs, just like all of those influences coming together, like is so fire. You'll be able to hear music that you've never heard of, instruments that you've never heard of, and the vibes are just like really crazy, right? And so when we're talking about those markets and being able to have those cultural experiences, I already talked to you about how Gauteng is like a really great place to experience that. And Cape Town is as well, because a lot of the migrants like live in Cape Town or go to Cape Town just because it's one of the bigger cities. But again, it's not even the place with the largest population. They have the third largest population, right? Let's see, what else do I want to say? Just really quickly, we already kind of talked about food and how Durban's a really great place for like food, how they have the spice markets and things like that. And anything else before I let you go? I feel like that's good enough for today. We covered like a lot. So basically we talked about how Africa is considered sometimes the rainbow nation and how diverse it is in native ethnic groups, as well as like migrants who have moved to relocated to the country and have just gone through and shared their culture and inspired just like the nightlife, inspired the food, inspired the wardrobe. And make sure that when you decide to go to South Africa, you should have a better sense of where you want to go and the expectations you should have when you get there. Like if you want to turn up heavy, heavy on the turn up, then you're going to Joburg, aka Josie, aka Johannesburg, right? If you want rest and relaxation, if you want culture, you're going to Durban. If you want politics, if you want like thrill seeking and things like that, there's certain places that you're going to go based off of like your traveler type. So if you haven't taken your destination matching quiz to get your personalized recommendations of which African countries have the experiences that you are looking for based on your travel type. It's only 5 questions. You'll get your answer within like 2 minutes. So I highly suggest you go to connectmetoafrica.com to take that destination matching quiz so that you can start to do a little bit of research and see which countries you are really vibing with. All right. So I am here to help. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. And tomorrow we are going to wrap up South Africa. Hey. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.